Hello, I'm Jeremiah. So I've got this project of uh, making my house, which was built in 1883, look like it was 1883 and feel that way. And part of the project has been collecting books that were printed in or before 1883. And some of the books that I've got are religious books, and I'm going to show you my collection of Mormon religious books from that time period. So I've got two different categories of them. I've got the anti-Mormon books, the ones that are against the Mormon Church, which there were a lot of back then, and then I've got the ones that were actually printed by the church. So let me see. Right here is a stack of, almost a dozen books that were printed by the church, mostly for the youth, and these basically have a lot of history in them. Like this one is called Early Scenes from Church History. We've got The Life of Nephi, My First Mission, Scraps of Biography, A String of Pearls, H.C. Kimball's Journal, Fragments of Experience, Leaves from My Journal, Mormon Doctrine, The Myth of Manuscript Found, and The Hand of Providence. It's kind of interesting that these books are all the same size format, and they all came from probably the same press, I'm presuming in Salt Lake City, between like 1878 and 1883. And I've got this book here. It's called The Expose, or Mormonism and Mormons. And it's written by a person who was hearing the story of a woman who escaped from the Salt Lake area in like the 1840s or 50s. She was involved with all of the things that apparently were not good that were happening there. And modern scholars say that this book has some truth and a lot of exaggeration and some fiction in it, and it's written to be entertaining but not necessarily absolutely historically accurate. And I've got another book called The Mormon Wife, and this one originally came out in the 1850s, and this is a reprint of it with a different title from the 1870s. And this one is purportedly a first-hand account by a Mormon wife. In actuality, it's a complete work of fiction, and they get a whole bunch of historical facts wrong, and it makes, basically it's from the standpoint of Joseph Smith was a con man and a sexual predator and very bad, and the Mormons were thieves and murderers and liars, and then it makes a extremely entertaining story of the whole thing. So it's kind of following the theme of the other book, but even less truth to it. I've got this one here, The Women of Mormonism. This is a compilation mostly from, there was this anti-polygamy group in Salt Lake City, and they had like a paper that they would print out, and these are a bunch of articles that they collected. This was put together in 1882, and was basically trying to get the United States to do something about the polygamy so that women could, have better lives and not be abused and things. This makes it sound like it was a really terrible situation for women, and it probably was for quite a few of them. This book here is titled Through Cities and Prairie Lands. This is written by someone who was touring the United States from England and happened in part of the tour to spend some time in Utah. And so this book has 2 chapters in it that talks about the Mormons and what life was like in Salt Lake City in 1880. And this here is probably the most accurate and unbiased account of what was actually going on there. And it's not like extremely prejudiced. It takes an understanding view of things. Definitely somebody that's looking for actual history, I'd recommend this one. I've got this book called Miracles and Modern Spiritualism, which just has one mention of the Mormon Church, and it mentions the miracle working Mormons. Well, you know, if you look in the books in this pile here, there's like 100 miracle stories. I mean, that's an appropriate label for the church. Whether miracles were real or just imagined, there were tons of them. Got a couple more books. Now these are reprints. I've got a reprint of the original Book of Mormon and a reprint, very nice replica reprint of the book printed by the church, The Women of Mormondom. And this is their theological explanation of all of the place of women in the church, including polygamy and things. And you know, this is how they made it make sense to them. And you know, it's quite an interesting book. It has a ton of history in it. So one thing I did not realize, I knew that I had some Mormons in my family line. My mom used to be Mormon when she was a kid, and but I did not realize, I'd never been curious about my ancestry, but today I dug into it and I discovered that all the things that I read in these books, the history and the various things that happened to the Mormons, I guess my ancestors go all the way back to like 1833 and were like completely tied in with what was happening in these books, and including there's even one plural wife in my family line, which was really quite interesting. I will never quite think of the Mormon history quite the same now that I realize that I actually sort of come from there. Anyway, yeah, so it's really quite an adventure learning about history and what has happened through the years and decades and centuries.